Hey everyone, this is Darko and this is GGN. I'm gonna do a follow-up video on the whole Iran deal. Just add a little bit to what I was talking about on Wednesday, along with some other news with Israel and Syria. Try to wrap this all together for was it Wednesday, November 27th, 2013. This first article from a day ago: Americans back Iran deal by 2-1 margin, says Reuters poll. So me personally, a lot of these polls, I don't know if I necessarily agree with them as far as their legitimacy, but I'm sure they got some kind of lemmings to say, give their opinion on something that they really have no say in. Right? You're talking about a country that's not democratic, Iran, with another country that's not democratic, United States, just like most countries or companies. And so let's get someone who doesn't know what the hell they're talking about and ask them what they feel about something that they have no power over. So that just goes to show you. They're going to go ahead and back the deal, though, for whatever reason. I'm sure there's people that say, oh, we should have just bombed them with, like Israel said, those damn ragheads. But some people think this is a good thing. Like I said, this is a bad thing because you have, whether it's in the UK, whether it's in the EU and the US, all of a sudden comforting, opening arms to the brutal, oppressive dictatorship or regime there in Iran. And why? Because the Zionists need money when they run all these countries. And so I heard a YouTuber talking about how this could possibly be a kind of a change in the Middle East as far as a power shift, a little away from what we used to see as Syria backing and Qatar backing terrorists, Salafi terrorists, and raising hell and creating chaos in Syria. Some speculated it was for natural gas pipelines. Some thought it was just to create chaos to affect Iran, to weaken them. But if it didn't really happen, they couldn't actually do that militarily. So this could kind of be. I mean, I may be wrong here. I'm pretty sure that I don't know everything. So it's just correct me if if you think I'm wrong. But it could be that Iran is not an access power with Israel, but basically it's bad for the Iranian people what happened, although they might think that it was good. And a weakening of the Saudi type of power. I think they're trying to make them seem, the Saudis, like they're trying to make them seem in the public as if they're relevant. I'm seeing a lot of this in Iran at the same time. Yeah, Israelis in secret trip to Saudi bases from WorldNet Daily. Saudi Arabia, Israel capitalize on chaos in the Middle East, tying them together, which they usually have been, and they probably still will be, so far as Saudi Arabia is necessary, useful or necessary to the Zionists. Israel does capitalize on chaos, and that's how they basically assert their power and their control. Saudi Arabia, on the other hand, I don't think that they want to have destabilization right in their own country. But we may see that, like I said. The managerial class in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is, at least, in the conspiracy side, said to be Jewish. So those guys are at the top are actually Zionists themselves. Will they get airlifted out of there? Who knows? Will they be left to be hung by people that don't like them? They could be used against them like that, kind of like how they did in other countries. Because, wherever you go, whether it's Iraq or something like that, yeah, there were some decent social services, and these people were no worse than the countries that attacked them. I'm talking about Iraq or Libya or stuff, or other countries, Afghanistan, Syria. But like I mentioned before, as far as Saudi Arabia, a lot of their revenue, their economy is based off oil, much like Libya. So if they're running out of oil, or they're not exporting oil because of the chaos that was created, then that's big trouble as far as stabilization. It's so bad right now in Libya that they're not even exporting any oil and nobody wants to do business with them. These are the same militias, I believe, that overthrew Gaddafi. Many of them were actually foreigners. The beef here is that it's between these militias that overthrew Gaddafi and did all the dirty work, and then these puppets came in. There's a disagreement between them two. And you see that a lot in these types of scenarios. But back to what I was saying about Saudi Arabia, and then telling us that we won't leave you behind, or whatever. You'll see stuff like this. November 27th, Saudis unlikely to break with U.S. Yeah, well, they're going to try not to break with the U.S., but the U.S. and the Zionist occupied governments may do it, may break with them, whether they like it or not. Which is why, like I said in that one article I covered about the missiles being directed at both Iran and Israel. But behind the scenes, there is something definitely going on here. Whether it's the Zionists trying to keep their system going by unfreezing these assets, which will no doubt benefit them as well, to keep this whole charade going. You have here in Iran, they're signing this deal so they're not going to enrich, and then at the same time publicly telling their own people, uranium enrichment in Iran will never stop. This is our red line. So they'll never stop enriching uranium. That's what they're telling their people, because the people, according to Pew Poll, are for basically being able to defend themselves. And this is interesting because those sanctions by the West against Iran wasn't against the leadership. It was against the people, the regular people at the bottom that are under the same type of system that's of control that oppresses them. And so it was aimed at those people, and those people want to defend themselves. And now they're saying that, oh yeah, we will, but at the same time, they're going to allow the economy to start flowing again. Again, this will keep them in power and to keep their system of control continuing as well, or also with the West. Sorry about that. In Russia, it'll benefit Russia. Will likely benefit from the U.S.-Iran deal. You saw all the stock markets in the United States shooting up. In Israel, they were shooting up, right? We covered that. Israeli stock market shot up. So Netanyahu's going out there saying, no. Netanyahu to make case against Iran during U.S. visit. Well, who was the U.S. that he was visiting? Oh, according to the global Jewish news source, White House talks Iran deal with Jewish groups. So now having phone calls with Jewish leaders to explain the aspects of the interim sanctions for nuclear blah 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 blah. Right. So that's where they go to. U.S. pro-Israel groups signal Vilga-Iran deal time, because that's what it's about. It's about money, releasing the money so they can get their cash. So at home, Netanyahu's telling people what they've been saying, we got to attack Iran. Can't allow them to have a nuclear bomb. Can't allow them to get a nuclear bomb. And so he's going home and telling his people right there. But it doesn't make any sense, right? Because publicly you had top ex-Israeli analysts and intelligence officers saying, no, this is a good thing. We didn't even have to attack them. And we're going to disarm them, just like we did to Syria. So see, these are appearing as wins and victories. I see them as losses in general for people for freedom, and in general for sovereign states to defend themselves. So they'll put the bullshit out there like this, propaganda. U.S.-Israel ties to get put to the tests. Well, they're just as locked to the hip as the rest. And I might get slammed about this, about, Iran and China and Russia are resisting the Zionists, and I'm saying, no, I'm sorry, I just don't buy that. If they're not occupied or run, at least heavily influenced by the Rothschild banking dynasty and all the other Jews in the banking system, then at least we know that they have regimes that oppress people, that people don't have a say in labor, they don't have the say in how they're going to express themselves as far as socially, unless it's, of course, gay rights or minority rights. That will be legislated. Then you have the weird stuff going on in Russia where they're actually legislating stuff against that, against homosexual propaganda, against for children, actually banning advertisements for abortions. They're building their defenses. Me personally, I think that they're just doing this to appease their people. I think what they're doing is kind of a pre-war type deal, and they have talked about drafts in Russia as far as conscriptions and drafts and bulking up their army. It seems to me that they're trying to win support, whatever the regime is in Russia, and they're trying to give people what they think that they want in order to get the support for some kind of military operations in the future. Anyways, I kind of went off to left field there with that. I just want to go a little more detail about why I felt that way, about the different powers. They're just vying over, power in their trading blocks, basically. And they'll sell out for whatever. Like Russia, with Syria. I think they pretty much sold out with them. They never really backed them. With Iran, Russia can do business with whoever they want really now. It's not just isolated to Iran. Iranian and Turkish foreign ministers call for a ceasefire in Syria. So what's going on here, right? It said here that they're both saying all efforts must be directed at ending the conflict and establishing a ceasefire. So where's this coming from? They agree that there is no military solution to the crisis. All parties should cooperate to politically resolve the turmoil. So, but what's been happening? They've tried, right? The rebel, basically the terrorists, no ceasefire for peace talks. So the pro-West group rules out attending Geneva conference. So they're not going to attend and stuff, and they're not going to implement any ceasefire, and mostly because they want regime change, right? Demand for Assad's resignation aimed at disrupting the Geneva too. So they want regime change, and they will not carry out a ceasefire because they don't want peace. Their goal probably is just to have a carrot dangling in front of them, which is they're going to have their own caliphate with a Sharia law and stuff, and chopping hands off like they've been shown, eating organs and beheading people, and good old-fashioned kidnapping and stuff for ransom. But the Syrian army's been, for the most part, militarily, they've actually been very successful, which is why I thought it was a big blow to them when they said they were going to agree to this chemical weapons deal, giving that up, admitting guilt to something they didn't do, and then while they at the same time they were actually holding their own. The military was continuing these operations across the country. So I think this could be a significant thing. Iran telling Syria to just stop. They know exactly what's going on. They know that Turkey's not, they're arming the terrorists. So does this mean that Iran's not going to show support anymore for Syria? Could they actually, the West, carry out a military strike once all those chemical weapons are removed next year sometime? Either way, Turkey said they're worried as their sons go to fight in Syria. Several hundred have been estimated to go on and fight in Syria, but it's not just them. And they know this too. Number of foreign fighters from Europe in Syria is historically unprecedented. And that's because most of the Free Syrian Army is not actually Syrian. And like I said, they may just want chaos. They want to create refugees. I think that's a big deal too. They want to create refugees and they want to import them into cultures that are not used to their culture, which is mostly Europe and United States. And this is what we're seeing. You're just not seeing in the mainstream news. Okay, so moving on here, we have Israeli Air Force hosts largest international military exercise in Israel's history. So we're talking about Saudi Arabia being odd man out, right? Who did they hold these exercises with? Israel, that is. They actually held it with the U.S., Italy. Yeah, U.S. and Italy, basically. So where's Saudi Arabia? I don't know. But, yeah, we're talking about oil in Libya. Getting bad there. Oil workers strike over insecurity in Libya's Benghazi. And the crazy thing is that Libya, since they don't have an economy, since they're not getting the oil going, it's creating a haven for terrorists to be radicalized. It's kind of a place for people to pass through on the way to Africa or the Caucasus or Syria, radicals, and they get armed there and then they move on. They even get trained there possibly by certain intelligence agencies. Speaking about creating refugees, they actually end up going to the United States, and then they end up going back to the Middle East or wherever after they were refugees. They were terrorists/refugees. Then they go back to where they were fighting as Al-Qaeda, and the U.S. supports it all. They pay them while they're over there overseas, or train them, aid them, and then when they come back, they shelter them. But don't worry about American citizens that may be starving around the streets without jobs or whatever this Thanksgiving and Christmas. Now, this is the result of what we did. Were we there for oil? I tend to think it wasn't just oil, right? Just create chaos and blow the shit out of people and create refugees. Funeral suicide bomb near Baghdad kills 9. So we're talking about how many more people are there in Iraq that can be blown up and decapitated, right? Well, apparently there's still more. And then when they're burying them, these a-holes come and blow them up that are mourning them. I mean, they don't even have the respect of allowing people to bury their dead. It sounds like the same type of mentality with the drone attacks, right? Double tap. But it's official policy in Israel to support the settlers' crimes against Palestinians. We know that Israeli spy companies have eyes focused on U.S. citizens, but a Hollywood producer of Fight Club was spying for Israel. And it appears that terrorist attacks have been occurring in China. Thank you.